Hello everybody, I'm SJM, hanging out in my hideout with Hillock and my baby crowbell, and of course our Ogum armor set. The build's changed quite a bit. I figured out pretty much, I think the day before I released my last video, the storm wave damage got nerfed because of the interaction of Herald of Thunder and the Lightning Infusion gem. Apparently, that having the Lightning Infusion on the Herald of Thunder was affecting regular attacks, or obviously, you know, the shockwave attacks. So I didn't really realize it because I thought that was a part of the transition from going from end game or from end of the campaign into the first tier of maps, and just took me a little while to catch on to it from other content creators, especially Tai, who I had taken the lightning wave attack or build from. And based it around, he mentioned the massive drop in DPS that he got. So it was okay in the very beginning stages of the first tier maps, but now that we're starting to get up into tier 3 and tier 4 maps and juicing them up a little bit, it's really noticeable. You know, when you've got to do 4, maybe even sometimes 5 lightnings. What is the name of the skill? Jesus. Skill. Storm Wave. Silly Storm Wave. Yeah, taking 4 or 5 of these just to kill a regular white mob, like not even a special white mob buffed up by anything. There's it was a slog to get through everything, especially when I'm moving so slow with these silly boots that I bought, and I'm too hard-headed to actually go out and buy myself move speed boots because it would ruin all my res by 30%, but that's aside the point. Anyways, I did find a build by SnooBAE, which I'll link in the description below for the video, on switching over to using Flicker Strike. Now, the build is basically a cast on freeze based build, so instead of using the buff Reaper's Invocation to store up charges and cast our Profane Ritual to get our power charges. This one uses Cast on Freeze now. So if we'll take a look at my skills, we are using Flicker Strike. This is not a Flicker Strike build by any stretch of the imagination. Flicker Strike is something that we can use when we have extra power charges. When the build is functioning properly, we can Flicker Strike, you know, once every 10 seconds or so, something like that, if everything's working properly. The only problem is that we're freezing so much that we shatter so many corpses, and oftentimes we're sitting at 100% on our cast on freeze, and we just there's nothing to target with the Profane Ritual, so it never fires off, and we're sitting there at 100 until we can actually kill something without shattering it. I do have an empty cast on freeze here just because I don't have the spirit yet, because I don't have enough stats basically to get better equipment, right? To get more evasion. I kind of want, in a sense, I want to stick to a pure evasion base, but it would be technically better to switch to a evasion ES hybrid to get more spirit, and we might do that and then be able to get the spell setup on our second cast on freeze up there. But basically we switched over, and it is essentially just a Tempest Bell / Tempest Flurry build. that sometimes gets to Flicker Strike. If you've got enough uptime on your power charges to keep your charged staff boosted up, because that's really is the linchpin there, is keeping that built up there. Without the profusion in the build anymore, because I don't have enough strength or enough openings in my points to be able to support either or any more strength gems in there, because I'm barely towing the line on keeping my gear equipped at this point, right? So this needs 157 dex, I've got 159. This one needs 117 94 intelligence. I think there was something else that needed more intelligence. Oh, because I've got that one equipped. If I switch over to this weapon here, I'm only at 96 intelligence. And we'll go over the weapons such with the cast on freeze here right away as well. So if we take a look at Tempest Flurry is the main thing that we're using to freeze the enemies. So with the main weapon that I've been using for quite a while now, you can see we do have cold damage in the build. Of course, you know, it's really helpful with Tempest Bell, but this cold damage here isn't enough to reliably freeze enemies. Even using the bell, we can sometimes get the freezes off, and that's with glaciation support in there. So I did go out and bought this secondary weapon. It was really cheap. It only cost me 2 exalteds with just the base cold damage and some attack speed on there. And as a bonus, we did get +1 level of all melee skills, and then the leech's damages mana it doesn't exist because we're converting so much of our attacks over anyways, right? With Tempest Flurry, 60% goes to lightning damage, so we're really, at the end of the day, we're really not doing that much physical damage anyways to get any leech off of it. So that's a thing. That's you know, just your basic staff right there. It's not horrible by any stretch, but it's not that great. If we compare over here, it's about 3,200 DPS compared to 3,500 on the good one that I've got there. So we're losing out on DPS, but this does much more reliably freeze, right, with that chunk of cold damage. In fact, it's a little bit too much. So there's going to be a balancing point in there that you want, so that you're not overly freezing everything, because this right now just freezes everything, even with just non-charged staff Tempest Flurry. It just freezes everything, and they always shatter and blow up, and just Herald of Ice procs on there. It's actually really, really good. Even just using this with Tempest Flurry and Bell clears really, really well. Much better than the Storm Wave. However, it is more dangerous because we do have to be a little bit closer. So I would like to get some quality on the Tempest Flurry, because if we get some quality on it, then we increase our melee strike range. And if I believe, according to SnooBAE's video there, it would reach the edge of the screen, right? So we'd be able to hit everything from the edges of the screen with it. So let's just go over the skills and what I have linked in there for now. So Flicker Strike, we have Close Combat, Perpetual Charge, and Conk Effect. Tempest Flurry, we have Martial Tempo, Magnified Effect, so that it shoots farther out, and Lightning Mastery, just to give it an extra level on there. So even though it's only a level 14 gem, it's at level 16. I guess I could probably bump that up to 15 because I've got a couple of 15s lying around. Charge Staff, we have Primal Armament as our lone strength gem. The one that increases the duration would be really nice to have in here. But unfortunately, because I've only got strength, I'm just taking the one that gives me more damage. Ice Bite. So basically this should always be procced because we should always be freezing enemies with this one. And that just, gives us 35% extra cold damage. And then Conduction, so that we're always keeping the shocks up as well for extra damage. Tempest Bell, Glaciation is the big one because that's, helps us freeze a lot more reliably. Although probably with this staff we don't need it so much, but I was testing it with this staff to see if I could get freezes more reliably, but it doesn't work that well, and we'll showcase that towards the end of the thing. +1 limit so that we can get bells down faster. As soon as we break one bell, we should be able to place the next one. And then increased freeze duration. So the Cast on Freeze, which is getting our Profane Ritual with Profusion, and this one is Impetuous, which gives us increased energy gain. So that's handy for, building up the Cast on Freeze proc over there since the nerf, right? It's been nerfed from 100 energy down to 20, right? I think this is only at 27%. Oh, gains 10 energy per power. It used to be 100 before the nerf. Herald Device, we're using Cold Mastery, Cold Infusion, Enervate, and then Ghost Dance, we just have Clarity in there. I could get another one in there for 16, but I'm basically just 4 shy of pulling out Wind Dancer. Maybe even Ghost Dance, but pulling out Wind Dancer or Ghost Dance, one of those, and then getting the second Cast on Freeze setup running. So, and then eventually would like to add, obviously, the other one back. But I think the secondary Cast on Freeze setup is going to have a bunch of spells in it. And if I just pop on over to the max roll guide and see what SnooBAE has in there. So basically Lightning Warp, Ball Lightning, and Voltaic Mark as the spells that we want to proc out of that. And that would actually, obviously, if we're using that, we're probably going to need a little bit more mana recoup somehow. Let's go over the passive skill tree changed. I spent about 100,000 gold respecking everything. Oh, by the way, pretty much immediately after recording the last video, I did switch over to And Protect Me from Harm just to get this armor value up there to help with physical damage reduction. And so I would like to respec back into I Am the Blizzard, and maybe that would help with the getting enough cold damage. But I tried the Ascension trial, and I couldn't finish it off just yet. I didn't give it a serious try. I gave it a couple of tries. It's going to take some learning to do before we can get there. But this is what the tree is looking like now. So we unspec'd out of this stuff up here. I could probably unspec out of this. Because we have this. So there's no reason to have all of this resistance penetration up here. Because if we freeze everything, then we get to ignore the resistance anyway. So there's no reason for it. Up here, we just have more increased damage if we've triggered a skill. So this should always be going off. Or almost always. And then I guess if I take out these points here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 points there, we could go up to here as well. And I haven't exactly done it because I'd like to have that second Cast on Freeze setup working before we go up here. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 to get here is going to be the more important one, but this one's going to be add some nice quality of life as well for re-triggering the cast-on freezes. Oh, and also we unspec'd out of this wheel for the 16% reduced cost, because we can get 15 costs for 2 points right here. We just have to not be on low mana, so that's almost always the case anyways. And then to replace the damage we lost up here, I did spec down here, so we should be always igniting, chilling, shocking, and freezing. So we should have 4 different elemental ailments on there, so we should be getting 60% increased damage that way, instead of the 90% that we had up here. So it's a little bit of a loss, but it's a lot less points to get there, right? Rather than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 points to get there from this wheel, whereas this was 4. Just note this, I do have this node spec'd, even though I'm not planning on going out here anytime soon, but eventually we might get there. But this one just to get enough intelligence to use. So I guess when I do, if I continue with this character and I do another equipment respec, I will look for dexterity and intelligence on our pieces, because the way I did these ones here, I didn't get any, and that's kind of now, at this point now, holding me back from getting different support setups, because I can't put any red support gems in, because I don't have any strength to put in. I can't upgrade to better evasion base because I can't, because of the dex. I guess I could change this into a hybrid dex ES, get more energy, but I would lose out on the effectiveness of this node here. And obviously our evasion would go back down, because we're sitting at 77%, or 75, about 74, 7,500 evasion, with the 40 less from and protect me from harm. Alright, enough yapping about the build. Let's jump in and show the testing. So we're going to start off with the old weapon, and then we'll switch to the more powerful weapon, and we'll switch to the lesser weapon after we do a little bit of showcase here. So we'll jump in. Might as well pop up here and look at getting this next tower so we can see if there's any cool stuff out this way. And we may as well do... Now let's not do one of those while I'm talking and playing at the same time. But we can do a little bit of juicy on this one. It does have shocked ground on it, but that's fine. So obviously the big things to watch is our cast on freeze, because that's what's going to be giving us our charges, right? Always being shocked is having an effect here, obviously. Got hit by a death effect there, lucky to have survived that. But just to show how well that works there, and then now we'll switch over to the other weapon. Now, just note, weapon swaps screw you over on your charge staff. I noticed this with my other setup that I had, where I was trying to do, you know, lightning with one weapon setup and cold with the other weapon setup. It's truly horrible. And then why do I not have ghost dances? There we go. So obviously, being in beta, there's still some bugging. You can see with this staff here, we're now just freezing everything, but we're not leaving any corpses. Tried to do some weapon swapping tech, but that doesn't seem too viable either. With this new weapon, as a cold-based weapon, you just have to hope we get a little bit luckier. As you can see, we're not able to do flicker striking very much at all. So we're flush on power charges. Wrong button. Wanted to do this. But it is a very safe playstyle with the charge staff and the Tempest Flurry. You get the same kind of range as they were getting on the Storm Wave. But there's a lot more power in the build now, so...
Fury unleashed!
Really satisfying when we do get a 7 power charge flicker strike go off. A little bit dizzying, and it can definitely teleport you into danger that you don't want to be in, but that's kind of what you sign up for when you play flicker strike in the first place. We do get the occasional power charge with this staff, but I think if we had maybe like 5% or 10% less cold damage and just froze a little bit less often, that would be better. We want to keep up the freeze frequency. You know, obviously because we've got the ice bite rocketed. So that's that extra damage. Because we get the damage bonus every time we freeze something. Don't mind if I do on a prismatic ring. Yeah, Bell at this point, when we're sustaining the charge staff pretty well, is only needed for the rares. Having these boots with this setup is super horrible because it takes us so long to walk from place to place, from pack to pack. So definitely I do need to get off my butt and trade for some move speed boots, just so that I'm not constantly losing, you know, A, real life time, and B, my power charges or my charge staff buff. What's that? Shroud Walker. It's just annoying, it's not really that dangerous.
Fury unleashed!
Just with 1 second left on the timer there, I was able to maintain my 7-stack charge staff. Of course, that's cut off, so... Anybody up here to recharge? No. So I just basically lost my big buff before we come and fight this last rare. So we'll probably have to fight him naked. Back in a second. 5, 4, 3, 2... Nope, didn't get a charge back. Oh, there he was. And we actually got an elk at the end. No, we didn't even maintain the Waystone. Well, I guess we did, because we only used tier 2 in there. But yeah, that's the gameplay and what I've changed over to. It's working fairly well in these low tier maps, but we will need to change over and get more reliable, like just maybe change to a... Actually, I think I really want to focus on getting that other ascendancy point for I Am the Blizzard so that we can get that extra 10% cold. And then I think my other staff, my main staff, would be good enough to freeze more reliably. And we'll change these points around and go up here and get these points here. You know, we're obviously would have to get the second cast on freeze to really take advantage of the triggered spells with the increased spell damage, but that shouldn't be too bad. And then we're also coincidentally sitting right beside Chaos Inoculation, which I do want to try out, but we would need to get a whole bunch of extra energy shield before we got there. This is going to help a little bit when we get this point, but it's not going to do a whole lot with the current chest piece that I have. Anyways, that's enough rambling for this build update. I hope you all enjoyed. I appreciate you for checking it out, and we will see you in the next one.